Discover miraculous redemption, sleep in God's word and experience transforming blessings tonight. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim king of Judah into his hand, with some of the articles of the house of God, which he carried off to the land of Shinar, to the house of his God. There, in Babylon's grandeur, for young men of the sons of Judah Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah were among those taken captive, their hearts heavy with the grief of their homeland. As they found themselves standing in the midst of the king's court, a world of splendor overwhelmed their senses. Thick carpets adorned the great hall, and golden goblets filled with rich wines shone like stars beneath the flickering torchlight. The aroma of delicate foods wafted temptingly through the palace, yet the heart of Daniel was burdened. His identity as a child of the covenant weighed heavily upon him, highlighting the stark contrast between their heritage and the feasts set before them. To partake is to forsake, he thought, remembering the desolate cries of Jerusalem's ruins. Determined to honor Yahweh, Daniel approached the chief of the eunuchs. "Please, I beseech you, allow me and my friends to eat only vegetables and drink water. Let our appearance be the evidence of our faithfulness to the God of Israel," he implored. Yet fear flickered in the chief's eyes. Should their countenances suffer, his own demise would surely follow. Yet Daniel's calm conviction won out, and after a 10-day trial was granted. As the sun rose and fell over those days, Daniel and his friends emerged more robust than their peers, their faces radiating health. The chief marveled, and permission was granted for their diet to continue. God's providence was clear, as they gained knowledge 10 times greater than all the magicians and astrologers of Babylon, but the trials did not cease. Rumors of a golden idol echoing through the plains of Dura summoned all to worship it. Fear tremored through the heavens, for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. This was a moment of reckoning. They had come face to face with the ultimate test of faith. Should they kneel before the image and betray the Creator, or stand firm, risking all? When the decree rang out accompanied by the resounding trumpets, the 3 friends remained unyielding, their voices raised against the tide. "O King, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the fiery furnace, but even if he does not, we will not serve your gods." Their words soared amidst a sea of surrender, bringing forth the king's wrath. "Heat the furnace 7 times hotter," Nebuchadnezzar commanded, fury boiling within him. Yet, as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were thrown into the flames, an eternal moment unfolded. Lo, there appeared a 4th figure, like unto the Son of God, walking with them in the fire unscathed. The unfolding miracle left onlookers awestruck, ushering in silence where once there had been loud shouts of worship to false gods. What could this mean? The heart of the king began to soften as he witnessed divine intervention. Would he now turn to the true God, the God of Israel who redeems in the fires of trial? Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As the flames licked around the unyielding trio, the presence of the Most High enveloped them, proclaiming divine victory over despair. The mystery lingered, inviting all observers to grasp the depths of God's purpose in that harrowing moment. How would his redemptive plan unfold amidst the chaos of Babylon? Would the hearts of the captors soon be drawn to the mighty miracles of the God these young men so fervently worshipped? The promise of deliverance echoed through the flames, beckoning every soul to seek an answer. Then Nebuchadnezzar, filled with fury, rose in haste from his throne, his heart pounding with indignation. He gazed into the flaming inferno, seeking to witness the punishment of those who dared defy his edict. Yet there, amidst the searing heat, he saw not 3 but 4 figures walking unscathed, and their countenance bore the likeness of the divine. "Did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire?" he exclaimed, astonished. Lo, I see 4 men loose, and they walk amidst the fire, and they are not hurt, and the form of the fourth is like the Son of God. The king's voice trembled with incredulity, for what he witnessed transcended all reason and turned his heart towards wonder. He hurried to the mouth of the furnace and cried out, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come forth and come hither. In that moment, the heat that burned around them transformed into a gentle breeze of divine peace. The faithful trio emerged, unharmed, not even the smell of smoke upon their garments, their faith untouched by the flames. The assembly gasped, awestruck by the spectacle. Nebuchadnezzar, with a strange reverence filling his spirit, addressed them, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who hath sent his angel, and delivered his servants that trusted in him. The proclamation echoed through the crowd, awakening whispers of faith amidst the assembly of Babylon's greatest. They have changed the king's word, and yielded their bodies that they might not serve nor worship any god, except their own God. With fear and trembling in his heart, Nebuchadnezzar decreed a new edict, every people, nation, and language which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, for there is no other God that can deliver after this sort. He exalted the 3 young men, promoting them within the province of Babylon. Their faithfulness became a testimony, a beacon of divine steadfastness that would ripple through the ages. Yet even amidst this victory, the shadows of uncertainty lingered in the hearts of the faithful. For how long would Nebuchadnezzar remember? Would the trials of faith cease, or would they be tested again amidst the allure of a land that promised prosperity yet threatened the covenant? Each passing day would bear witness to their resolve, each sunset a reminder of the fallen world in which they stood. Daniel, observing from his place in the court, contemplated the enormity of God's plan. He understood that their deliverance was but part of a greater narrative, a divine unfolding of history wherein God's people would witness tribulation even amidst triumph. His heart swelled with the knowledge that the God of Israel would not forsake his people, that from the ashes of exile, his glory would arise like phoenix reborn. As he prayed earnestly, seeking God's counsel, he sensed an urgency that swept across his spirit. What would be the next chapter in God's sovereign timeline? In the stillness of the evening, he contemplated the fate of all who opposed the Most High and divine revelations yet hidden. Thus, the question arose like a burning brand before him, what was the Lord preparing for both his people and their captors? The heavens whispered secrets yet untold, as God's sovereign plan moved inexorably toward its climax. And Daniel pondered deeply, for even in the heart of Babylon, when darkness seemed unbreakable, hope kindled anew. What would the dawn hold next? As days turned into weeks, the winds of Babylon carried tales of the miraculous deliverance of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego far and wide. The hearts of many, strangers to the God of Israel, began to stir with a flicker of belief. Whispers filled the streets, igniting curiosity and rising hope, prompting some among the assembly to seek after the wonders of the Most High God. Yet amid this burgeoning faith, Nebuchadnezzar's heart remained fickle. Though he had exalted the God of the Hebrew youths, pride still lingered within him, urging him to assert control over his vast empire. One night, as he lay upon his bed, the king found himself troubled by dreams that emerged from the depths of his own spirit and echoed the turbulence of his reign. Why does my heart ache for what I cannot comprehend? In the early hours, he summoned the wise men of Babylon, demanding interpretations that never came. His countenance darkened as the hours stretched endlessly. In desperation, he sent for Daniel, the beloved servant of the Almighty, whose wisdom shone like a beacon in the shadows of his court. Are you able to make known unto me the dream that I have seen, and the interpretation thereof? Nebuchadnezzar asked with a mixture of authority and uncertainty. With a steadiness born of conviction, Daniel replied, The secret which the king hath demanded cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers, show unto the king. But there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets. He is able to make known what is to come. Thus, Daniel began to unfold the revelation to the king, recounting his dream of a great statue, with a head of gold, chest and arms of silver, belly and thighs of brass, legs of iron, and feet partly of iron and partly of clay. This is a vision of kingdoms, O king. The gold represents your reign, yet, it shall not endure forever. The heart of Nebuchadnezzar quaked as the implications hung heavy upon him. The successive kingdoms that would rise and fall would ultimately lead to the establishment of a kingdom not made by human hands, one that would endure and consume all others. The king's pride was met with a revelation from the throne of God. Flashes of truth illuminated the chamber, piercing the darkness of Babylonian governance. Your glory, O king, is but a fleeting reflection of the one who rules the heavens. The echo of God's sovereignty resounded as Daniel declared, "In those days shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed." As the meaning of the dream settled in, Nebuchadnezzar fell prostrate before Daniel. "Truly, thy God is a God of gods and a Lord of kings." In that moment, he recognized the breadth of the hand of the one who had delivered the faithful young men from the flames, now transforming his very perception of true sovereignty. Yet as the king began to acknowledge this higher power, a storm brewing in the hearts of the Babylonian nobles stirred treachery. They watched with ire as their king bowed before a god they did not serve. Daniel knew well that this was a mere foreshadowing of trials yet to come. With steadfastness and faith overflowing within him, he prayed for the strength to endure. And the Lord spoke into the silence of Daniel's heart, revealing that divine purpose intertwined even within the discontented souls of Babylon. As God's sovereign plan expanded, the unfolding of history was beckoning souls towards his eternal kingdom, for what Nebuchadnezzar believed to be a vision of descent was, in truth, the rise of a divine blueprint leading back to his redemption, drawing both the captives and captors toward a destiny entwined with the Almighty. What would become of this tumult, and what trials would unveil the glory yet to be revealed? The dawn was approaching, and with it, the fathomless depths of God's sovereign will awaited discovery. In the days that followed Nebuchadnezzar's encounter with Daniel, the atmosphere in Babylon grew thick with tension. Rumors of the king's newfound reverence for the God of Israel trickled through the halls of power, igniting the ire of the nobles and wise men whose pride resented any diminishment of their own esteem. Whispers of discontent seeped through the elite as they gathered in secret chambers, plotting how to regain the king's favor and rid themselves of the influence of Daniel and his God. They fashioned a plan that they believed would bring Nebuchadnezzar to heel, a decree that would draw out the devotion of his subjects, forcing them to choose between their loyalty to the king and the God of the Hebrews. Let it be known, one of the nobles declared against the backdrop of flickering torches, that for 30 days, any man who petitions any god or man except the king shall be cast into the den of lions. The assembly clamored in approval, believing it a wise course of action to bring back power into their own hands, hidden beneath a guise of loyalty. With the king's seal upon it, the decree was made, and soon it reverberated throughout the vast expanse of Babylon, instilling fear into the hearts of its citizens. Yet among these citizens was Daniel, a faithful servant of God who had been chosen to interpret the king's dreams and grasp the mysteries hidden from the world. When he heard of the decree, his heart did not falter but rather surged with holy resolve. 3 times a day, he found his window open towards Jerusalem, kneeling to pray and seeking the face of the Lord who had delivered him thus far. Though aware of the decree's consequences, Daniel's faith was unwavering. God had been his deliverer, and he had no intentions of bowing to the king. Craftily lifting himself to the heavens, the conspirators soon watched with glee, knowing that they had devised a trap for Daniel. They gathered in eager anticipation, their hearts gloating at the certainty of Daniel's punishment. As the sun set one evening, they peered into his chamber and beheld him praying stubbornly, hands lifted in adoration. "Behold!" They shouted in glee, rushing to present themselves before the king. "Daniel, who is of the captives from Judah, regardeth not thee, O king, nor the decree that thou hast signed, but mocketh his petition 3 times a day." The king's heart sank with the weight of his own decree. The loyalty he wished to demand had ensnared his beloved servant. With haste, Nebuchadnezzar sought to find a way to rescue him, but the laws of the Medes and Persians could not be altered. With despairing resignation, Nebuchadnezzar ordered Daniel to be cast into the den of lions. As he was lowered, the king declared, "Thy God whom thou servest continually, he will deliver thee." The stone was rolled over the entrance, and the king, though troubled, returned to his palace but could find no peace. Through the night, he fasted and refused the luxury of sleep. As dawn broke, Nebuchadnezzar hurried to the lioness' den. With trembling lips, he cried out, "O Daniel, servant of the living God, is thy God whom thou servest able to deliver thee from the lions?" From within the den came a voice, calm and confident, a pronouncement of hope resounding across the stone, "O King, live forever. My God hath sent his angel, and hath shut the lions' mouths, that they have not hurt me, forasmuch as before him innocency was found in me." In that moment, the king's heart rejoiced at the deliverance of the faithful servant, for he understood that God's kingdom mighty and everlasting was working in ways he could not yet fully perceive. With a wave of triumph, Nebuchadnezzar ordered Daniel to be lifted from the pit. And the king's spirit ignited anew, he proclaimed throughout all Babylon, "Let the God of Daniel be revered." And still, beneath the surface of this miracle, the nobles trembled, shadows darkening their intentions. For as the king recognized the sovereignty of the Almighty, the designs of their hearts were set to conspire yet again, what would unfold as God's plan continued to unravel through this drama of deliverance and treachery. The celestial tapestry of sovereign purpose remained woven with each thread of faith and rebellion, a mystery only the Most High could unveil. But still in the shadow of Nebuchadnezzar's proclamation, the discontented nobles plotted relentlessly. They gathered beneath the shrouded moon, their faces lit by the flickering flames of torches, whispering words drenched in malice. "Surely this God of Daniel is mighty," one noble murmured, "yet it is we who have influence over the king. We must act swiftly." Encouraged, they resolved to serve as agents of deceit once more, seeking to harness the king's pride against himself. With cunning hearts, they approached Nebuchadnezzar, veiled in feigned humility. "O king," they said, "may it please thee to establish a new decree, that whosoever refuses to honor the idols we set before thee shall likewise perish in the flames of the furnace, a fate surely they must dread." The king, intoxicated by the power of his throne and the flattery that surrounded him, raised his voice with fervor. "Then let it be so. Let all who defy my command be cast into the fiery furnace." And so the decree was sealed with the king's ring, his spirit blinded to the schemes woven by those he trusted most. The noblemen marveled at the cunning of their design, rejoicing at how quickly they had ensnared others in Nebuchadnezzar's pride. Their gaze now turned towards three faithful youths from Judah, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, known to the king by their Babylonian names, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. "Let us see," they conspired, "if these refuse to bow before the golden image. For surely, the king's fervor shall not wane against his own decree, they will be cast into the fire." As the day of reckoning arrived, the trumpets resounded throughout the land, heralding the unveiling of the idol. The loyal servants of God stood resolutely, their hearts steadfast, as the gathered multitude fell before the gleaming statue, a sight of gold that shimmered in a morning sun filled with arrogance. But they stood tall, their heads unbowed, their spirits unwavering. Daring whispers emerged within the crowd when eyes turned towards them, igniting further resentment against their devotion to the Most High. With urgency, the nobles approached the king, shrouded in the guise of loyalty. "Have you not commanded, O king, that all bow before your image? There are men among the captives of Judah who have refused. They disregard your decree." The king's brow furrowed in anger at this defiance. Contempt began to rise within him as he ordered them to be brought forth. "Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the golden image I have set up?" With boldness inspired by divine resolve, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. Our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, we will not serve thy gods nor worship the golden image thou hast set up." The fiery furnace was heated 7 times hotter, flames licking the skies, as the king flew into a rage. The guards who led the faithful men to the furnace fell to the heat's embrace, while the three were bound and cast within. Yet even as the flames danced and roared, something miraculous unfolded. Through the searing mist, Nebuchadnezzar gazed in disbelief. "Did we not cast 3 men into the fire? But behold! I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God." With astonishment illuminating his face, Nebuchadnezzar called out to the servants of the Most High, bidding them to come out of the furnace. As they emerged unscathed, the king's heart was overtaken by the reality of God's sovereign might. Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He proclaimed, acknowledging a power greater than his own, the stage was set for God's glory to shine forth yet again amidst trials and tribulations. Would Nebuchadnezzar fully comprehend the depths of divine grace and sovereignty? Only the Lord, in his great wisdom, would unveil the next chapter of his eternal plan for all nations to see, and in that moment of deliverance, the seeds of faith were sown deep within the hearts of many. Then Nebuchadnezzar spoke, and the trembling nobles fell silent, their hearts racing as the king declared, "Therefore, I make a decree, that every people, nation, and language which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, for there is no other God that can deliver after this sort." The king was filled with awe, recognizing a power that transcended his own authority. In that moment, he had glimpsed the glory of the God of Israel and the miraculous deliverance of his servants. And thus, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were promoted in the province of Babylon, their faith and courage heralded throughout the land. Yet, as the praises of the king echoed and the celebration ensued, another shadow crept into the hearts of men, and unease stirred among the nobles who had crafted the wicked plot. They whispered among themselves, their eyes lit by the flickering fires of the sunset, for the defeat of their scheme had sowed seeds of enmity. What can we do to restore our power and influence? The king's favor has turned against us. In the days that followed, Nebuchadnezzar's heart was torn between admiration for the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and the memory of his own proud undertakings. He sought counsel from his wise men, yearning to understand the visions that plagued his dreams, the visions that continually spoke of a kingdom that would rise to consume all other nations. But none could provide clarity, and anxiety gnawed at him. One night, as the stars shone brightly above, the king stirred from troubled slumber. In his dream, he beheld a great statue. Its head was of fine gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, and its feet part of iron and part of clay. A stone, cut without hands, struck the image upon its feet, shattering it to dust, and the wind carried it away, never to be found again. But the stone grew into a mighty mountain that filled the whole earth. Awakened in terror, Nebuchadnezzar breathed heavily, pondering the significance of the dream, a deep sense of dread enveloping him. This vision pierced through his soul as he understood, though dimly, that the stone symbolized a kingdom not of this world. He resolved to summon Daniel, for he had heard of the wisdom that was with him, believing that this faithful servant might unveil the meaning concealed within the dream. Daniel approached the king with a heart humbled by the weight of the moment. "O king," he said, bowing deeply, "the God of heaven has revealed to you what shall come to pass in the latter days. He has shown you, not in wrath but in mercy, that all the kingdoms of this world shall bow before his sovereign rule." As Daniel recounted the vision and its interpretation, a profound silence fell over the king. Through Daniel, the Almighty was once again declaring his dominion. The king's heart stirred with uneasy reverence, an ember of faith igniting in the darkness of his pride. Would he choose humility before the God who delivered his faithful servants from the furnace, or cling to the fleeting shadows of kingship? As the realization settled within him, a pivotal truth dawned: God's sovereignty extended beyond the immediate. The king of Babylon would find himself entangled in a divine tapestry woven by the hand of the Most High. And so, the challenge stood before Nebuchadnezzar, for what lay ahead was a test of faith and an unveiling of God's great sovereign plan that would ultimately shift the foundations of empires. Little did he know that this threat against the kingdom of heaven would only bolster its triumph, proclaiming the timeless truth: the Lord reigns over all. In the days following the king's unsettling dream, Nebuchadnezzar's heart wrestled within him like an ocean tempest. Observing his kingdom, he grew restless, the palace filled with his unease. His nobles, once emboldened by their treachery, now recoiled in fear of the God whom they had belittled. The decree carried with it the weight of divine authority, and whispers of admiration for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego spread like wildfire throughout the land, yet the shadow of the wise men and sorcerers loomed darkly. Their hearts hardened in jealousy as they meditated on their humiliation at the hands of Daniel. "How can we turn this misfortune to our favor?" murmured one of them, clutching the edges of his robe. "We cannot allow a foreign god to rise above our own." Within the palace walls, Nebuchadnezzar summoned Daniel once more, drawn not just by concern for his soul but also by the fervor of his dreams. "Are you able to make known to me the interpretation of my dream?" he inquired, a blend of demand and desperate hope in his voice. Daniel, with the grace bestowed upon him by God, responded, "The mystery that the king seeks has been revealed to me not through my wisdom, but through the mercy of the God who knows all things. For as you have perceived, there shall be a great fall of kingdoms, and a glorious kingdom shall arise, never to be shaken." The king's brow furrowed deeper as Daniel spoke of the powers represented in the statue. "The gold you saw represents your kingdom, O king. But your splendor shall not last, for another kingdom, inferior to you, shall arise, and after that, yet a third will follow. But in the end, a kingdom made without hands shall crush all earthly kingdoms." As Daniel's voice rang through the hall, conviction cloaked the king. He stood, his heart heavy with the gravity of providence unraveling before him. "What shall I do?" he asked, half to himself, half to the heavens. "Let your heart be turned from pride," Daniel urged, "and acknowledge that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men. There lies your salvation." The eyes of Nebuchadnezzar flickered with the truth resonating in Daniel's words, a flicker thwarted by the dim embers of his human ambition. Yet the whisper of humility beckoned him, a sweet morsel of existence amidst his tempestuous mind. "What if I relent? What power is in the hands of men if God has already declared the end from the beginning?" Meanwhile, the nobles, sensing the wind's shift, conspired against Daniel and his friends. "Let us devise a plan, one that will return the king's heart to his former might," they plotted, as shadows of discontent danced through their ranks. A chilling resolve settled upon them, one that would thrust their deceitful designs into action once more. As Nebuchadnezzar wrestled internally, unaware of the brewing storm around him, he contemplated the strange mixture of dread and reverence for the God of Israel. Would he embrace the unknown path ahead, marked by the stone that crushed the iron, or would he retreat to the comforts of renowned authority? Ultimately, the fate of empires and the fulfillment of prophecy loomed closer. The sovereign hand of God orchestrated events in ways unseen. With each passing moment, Nebuchadnezzar was drawing nearer to a crescendo of divine purpose, a purpose that would soar high upon the wings of repentance and faith, but the path forward remained veiled, and the question lingered: will the king of Babylon recognize the mighty deliverance waiting just beyond the shadow of his crown? In the days that followed, as the sun rose over the towering walls of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar's heart remained entangled in the web of uncertainty and pride. While Daniel's words echoed in his mind, a phantom of fear accompanied the king's every thought. Each morning felt like a trial, each evening a judgment. He sought solace in the familiarity of his court, yet the atmosphere buzzed with untold terror and plotting. The nobles, emboldened by the darkness in their souls, gathered in secret. They whispered about how to undermine Daniel and his companions, their voices laced with malice. "We shall make him forget the prophecy," one muttered, eyes glinting like daggers in the dim light. "Let us create a monument to his glory, a statue of gold to be worshipped by the people." The others nodded in fervent agreement, believing their cunning could divert the king's attention from the God of Israel. Meanwhile, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, steadfast in their loyalty to the Most High, sought divine wisdom. They gathered in prayer, their voices united, and they implored for guidance and strength. "O Lord, Thou art our refuge and deliverer," they prayed fervently, "lead us in paths of righteousness, and guard our hearts against the snares of treachery." In the stillness of that fervent prayer, a serene presence filled the room, fortifying them with unshakable resolve. The dread of the kingdom's whims could not extinguish the light that filled their souls. The promise of the living God rang clear: "Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name, you are mine." Isaiah 43 verse 1. Days turned into weeks, and the king's restlessness grew as he battled the pride that threatened to engulf him. One fateful morning, propelled by his woes, he summoned the nobles and decreed, "Let a golden image be made, one that reflects my power and authority, and decree that all shall worship it, lest they meet with dire consequences. He struck his gavel, a symbol of his dominion, yet deep down, the echo still whispered of something greater. As the towering statue was erected, a magnificent sight adorned with gold, the people gathered, a sea of faces turned toward the shining visage. The king's heart momentarily swelled with pride, but then an unease began to creep in, like a shadow lurking just out of sight. He thought of Daniel, of his dream, of the God who could turn hearts to dust. The day of dedication arrived, and as the trumpet sounded, the people were commanded to bow before the idol. Yet amidst the throng, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stood resolutely, defiant as Daniel's prophetic words surfaced once more. "You shall have no other gods before me," Exodus 20 verse 3, replayed in their hearts, fueling their defiance against the king's decree. The nobles, witnessing this unprecedented rebellion, leaped at the opportunity to inform Nebuchadnezzar, their hearts igniting with malicious glee. "O king, did you not decree that all should bow? Yet these men scorn your command." Their voices dripped with accusation, the bitterness boiling over in their hearts, thirsting for retribution. In a whirlwind of rage, Nebuchadnezzar summoned the three faithful men. "Is it true? Will you defy my command?" he bellowed, the air heavy with fury. "If you do not worship the statue, you will be cast into the fiery furnace." With courage drawn from the wellspring of faith, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, "O king, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. Our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from your hand. But even if he does not, we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image you have set up." Daniel 3 verses 16 to 18. As these words hung in the air, an unearthly peace enveloped them, a silent assurance that despite their predicament, their lives were woven into the tapestry of divine purpose. Yet in that moment of fierce declaration, the sovereign plan of God was unfolding, with the promise of deliverance dancing amidst the flames of trial. What would emerge from the ashes of obstinate pride and unwavering faith? Would Nebuchadnezzar's heart finally recognize the true God standing among the fire? The answers loomed ahead like an echo in an empty canyon waiting to be revealed in a blaze of divine glory. Then the wrath of Nebuchadnezzar blazed like a consuming fire, and his countenance grew furious as he stood before the three men. "Heat the furnace 7 times more than it is usually heated," he ordered, his voice echoing with the weight of authority. The soldiers hastened to obey, stoking the flames until they roared with intensity, tongues of fire reaching towards the heavens, a show of sheer might and malice. "Bind these men," he commanded, "and cast them into the burning fiery furnace." The soldiers, trembling with fear, complied swiftly. They bound Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in their coats, their trousers, their turbans, and other garments, and they were hurled into the ferocious blaze. The fury of the fire blazed hotter than ever, and the very men who cast them into the flames were consumed by its wrath, their bodies reduced to ashen remains by the fiery heat. Yet within the searing confines of the furnace, something miraculous unfolded. The whispers of the Most High God danced through the flames, and as Nebuchadnezzar peered into the furnace, a perplexing sight met his eyes. "Did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire?" he exclaimed, bewilderment gripping his heart. "Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God." The king's voice trembled with awe as he called to them, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High God, come forth, and come hither." Without hesitation, the 3 faithful servants emerged from the flames, unharmed by the fire which had sought to consume them. The spectators were astonished, not a hair on their heads was singed, nor did their garments bear the smell of smoke. A divine presence had protected them, shielding them from the fiery curse that sought their demise. The king, filled with an overwhelming sense of wonder and reverence, acknowledged the God of Israel. "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who hath sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him, and have changed the king's word, and yielded their bodies, that they might not serve nor worship any god, except their own God." With authority, Nebuchadnezzar proclaimed, "Therefore, I make a decree, that every people, nation, and language, which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort. In that moment, honor and glory were bestowed upon these faithful servants, whose bravery shone brightly like a beacon amidst the darkness of idolatry. The king promoted them in the province of Babylon, honoring their steadfast faith that had invoked such a remarkable display of power from the Almighty. Yet, the echoes of Nebuchadnezzar's conviction rang heavy with unspoken mysteries as he turned to his advisers, seeking understanding of the divine revelation that had unfolded before him. How could the Son of God have walked in the flames of a barren furnace? And as he pondered, the orchestration of a divine plan began to unfurl, whispering a promise that would carry across generations. Though trials may come, the faithful are never forsaken. Little did Nebuchadnezzar know that his heart was being molded for a greater purpose. God was preparing him for a revelation that would cause kings and kingdoms to bow, igniting a flame of faith that would spread far beyond Babylon. What other wonders lay ahead in God's sacred tapestry? The divine narrative awaited its unveiling, shrouded in the promise of hope and redemption. As the sun set over Babylon, casting golden rays across the grand city, the hearts of the faithful breathed a collective sigh of relief mingled with anticipation. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, freshly delivered from the fiery furnace, stood as living testimonies of God's faithfulness, their very beings radiant with the glory of the Most High. Nebuchadnezzar's decree rippled through the land, a proclamation that echoed from every corner of the empire: "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego." In that moment, a flicker of spiritual awakening stirred among the populace, transforming fear into a desire for the God who rescued his servants from the flames. But within the king's heart resided a tumult of emotions, partly astonished reverence and partly the shadows of pride that had long governed his actions. He could not shake the visions that haunted his sleep, the dreams that foretold the rise and fall of kingdoms, and the enduring presence of the one true God. Though he bowed briefly before the God of Israel, deep down, he wrestled against the tempest of his own ambitions. Thus, the faithful young men remained vigilant, continuing to seek the face of God amidst the tumultuous challenges that beset them. In secret, they gathered to pray, asking for wisdom to strengthen their faith and for the courage to guide their king toward the path of salvation. Each day's dawn brought renewed hope. They believed that their testimony could touch not only the king's heart but also the hearts of all Babylon. Meanwhile, Nebuchadnezzar, though temporarily subdued by the miraculous events, found himself leaning towards vanity as he gazed upon the glory of his kingdom. The shadows of nobility continued to whisper in his ear, fueling pride that threatened to eclipse the light of faith that had begun to illuminate his heart. Yet God, rich in mercy, would not abandon his purpose. He sought to demonstrate his power throughout the land. In time, Nebuchadnezzar found himself walking upon the terrace of his palace, surveying the vast splendor he believed to be his own. "Is not this great Babylon that I have built?" His words hung in the air, a testament to his prideful heart. But as those words left his lips, a voice echoed from heaven, declaring judgment upon the king for his arrogance. "Your kingdom has departed from you, for 7 times shall pass over you until you know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men." The king's heart quaked as the weight of the truth surged upon him, darkness encircling his spirit. In a moment, he found himself cast out from the company of kings, wandering amongst the beasts of the field, stripped of his earthly glory. In this lowly state, he was humbled, experiencing the profound isolation that accompanies prideful hearts defiant against their Creator. It was in this desolation that the king lifted his eyes toward heaven and understood the futility of flesh when separated from divine grace. After a season, the king's sanity was restored, and he returned to his throne, not as a ruler shrouded in pride, but as one who recognized the sovereignty of the one true God. "Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven," he proclaimed to the people, "all of whose works are truth, and his ways judgment." The transformation in Nebuchadnezzar was evident, new understanding blossomed within him, and a heart of worship arose from the ashes of his pride. He established a legacy that would breathe hope into the next generation, one that would resonate through the ages. Daniel, observing from his place in the royal court, rejoiced as the king declared his allegiance to the God of Israel. Daniel understood that the mighty deliverance of his friends had set in motion a divine revival, impacting not only Babylon but the nations beyond its borders. God's promises, intricately woven over generations, began to reveal the truth of his redemptive plan for all humanity. The kingdom that would never be destroyed was emerging from the shadows. Thus, the land of Babylon, once steeped in idolatry, began to shift towards a recognition of God's sovereignty. People united in faith, and whispers of the testimonies of faith reached even the most remote corners of the realm. They shared of the miraculous deliverance, understanding that even amidst trials, the faithful are shielded by the Almighty. And as the days turned to months, the 4 young men Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego became pillars of faith, guiding the hearts of a nation toward true worship. They forged a legacy of unwavering devotion, reminding all that even in the valleys of despair, there lay a hope that would transcend kingdoms, while securing their own places in the heavenly narrative unfurling through time. Friends, as we reflect upon this incredible journey of faith, we are reminded of the power that lies in steadfastness, in holding on to the promises of our Almighty God. The miraculous redemptions faced by the faithful servants of God encourage us today to trust Him in our own trials, knowing He is ever present. If this biblical story has stirred your heart and ignited your spirit, that is the work of the Lord. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word. Don't miss out on the next powerful biblical story that can transform your life. Leave a like now to help spread God's Word through the algorithm. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Comment below with your spiritual reflections and how this story impacted your faith, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony. Let us shine the light of God's love together, reaching more souls for Christ.